The rain poured so hard it blurred the city lights into streaks of gold and silver. Inside his dented car, Ethan Walker, a single dad and cab driver, gripped the steering wheel tighter. He was exhausted 12 hours straight on the road, bills piling up, and his 8-year-old daughter Lily waiting at home with leftover soup. But that night, fate had plans for him far beyond another fare. A woman stumbled into the backseat, clutching her chest, gasping for air. Her designer dress was soaked, and fear clouded her green eyes. "Please," she choked out, "hospital now." Ethan didn't ask questions. He hit the accelerator. But as the car sped through traffic, her breathing grew weaker. Then her body went limp. "Hey, stay with me," Ethan shouted, heart pounding. He pulled over and checked her pulse. Nothing. He didn't think. He climbed into the backseat and started CPR, counting under his breath, praying she'd breathe again. Her lips were pale, her skin cold. Desperation pushed him to give mouth to mouth. 1 breath, 2 breaths, and suddenly she coughed violently, gasping for air. She was alive. That kiss, meant to save her life, would change everything. At the hospital, Ethan waited nervously outside the emergency room. He didn't even know her name. A nurse approached him hours later. "She's asking for you," she said softly. Inside the room, the woman looked fragile but radiant, her eyes finding him instantly. "You saved me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm Isabella Sterling." He blinked. The name was familiar. Sterling Industries, the billion-dollar empire that built half the city. Ethan couldn't believe it. He was just a cab driver who could barely afford rent. And she was a billionaire heiress whose name was printed on skyscrapers. "Just glad you're okay," he said awkwardly, but Isabella's gaze lingered on him, curious and grateful. The next day, the story made headlines. Billionaire heiress saved by unknown driver. Ethan tried to avoid the attention. He didn't want fame, just a quiet life for Lily, but Isabella wasn't done. She showed up at his small apartment the next week, standing in the rain like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Ethan, I owe you my life," she said simply. "Let me do something for you." He shook his head. "You don't owe me anything. I was just doing what anyone would." "Anyone?" She smiled sadly. "I've met a lot of people, Ethan. Not everyone would stop for a stranger." Days turned into weeks. Isabella kept finding excuses to see him, offering to sponsor Lily's schooling, bringing him food, even sitting in his cab while he drove late night fares. Slowly, her world of privilege began to mix with his world of struggle. Lily adored her. "She's like a fairy, Daddy," she giggled once, as Isabella helped her bake cookies in their tiny kitchen. Ethan smiled, though deep inside he worried. He didn't belong in her world. Then came the night everything changed again. One evening, Ethan received a strange call. Isabella's driver had quit, and she needed a ride to an important charity gala. Reluctantly, he agreed. When she stepped into the car wearing a silver gown, Ethan forgot to breathe. "You clean up nice," she teased. "You look different," he murmured, unable to find the right words. At the gala, reporters swarmed her, and Ethan watched from the sidelines, invisible as always. But suddenly, chaos erupted. Someone had spiked her drink. Isabella collapsed. Ethan rushed to her, ignoring security shouting at him. He carried her out in his arms and drove straight to the hospital, his heart hammering with fear. When she woke up, her first words were, "You again." Ethan laughed shakily. "I'm starting to think you attract trouble just to keep me around." Her hand brushed his. "Maybe I do." Their bond deepened after that night, but the world wasn't kind to them. Isabella's family disapproved. Her father, Charles Sterling, was furious. "You are not throwing your future away for a cab driver," he thundered. Isabella stood tall. "He's the man who saved my life twice. The only one who looks at me like I'm not a headline." Ethan tried to walk away to protect her reputation. "You deserve someone who can give you everything," he said quietly. "All I have is a small apartment and a daughter who sleeps in my arms when the power goes out." But Isabella shook her head, tears glistening in her eyes. "You already gave me everything that matters: kindness, honesty, and love." Still, life tested them. Charles used his power to blacklist Ethan from driving in the city, and social media tore him apart, calling him an opportunist, a gold digger. Bills piled up again, and he almost lost his home, but Isabella didn't back down. She sold her luxury penthouse and moved into his modest apartment, proving her love was real. They rebuilt their lives together, starting a small transport company, Lily's Rides, named after his daughter. Isabella used her business skills. Ethan managed the drivers. Within a year, they were providing affordable rides to single parents across the city. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, Isabella stood beside Ethan on their office rooftop. Lily ran around them, laughing, her hair glowing in the golden light. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked softly. She smiled. "Regret? Ethan, you kissed me once to save my life. That moment didn't just bring me back. It gave me a reason to live differently." Ethan wrapped his arm around her, his heart full. "And you showed me that love doesn't care about class, money, or past. It just defines you." As they looked out over the city, the same city that once separated them, they knew they had won, not because life was easy, but because they had chosen each other through every storm.